there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to give you some rapid fire recommendations for Gothtober. So I'm going to be recommending 7 books for 3 of the different prompts here, and I'm just going to try and go through them fairly quickly because I'm talking about 21 books here in one video and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm going to recommend you books with grey morals in them or morally grey characters. Then I'm going to be recommending you books by Black, Indigenous or people of colour authors, and then also books that are set in a foreign country. Now I know that foreign country will depend on where you are living, but I'm going to be recommending books set outside of the US and the UK just as foreign country definition for this video's sake. So let's get down to those recommendations. The first 7 books are going to talk about morally grey characters, and yeah, I recommend all of these. So the first one I've got for you is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. The Goldfinch follows Theo, and it starts off when he's a child and goes to when he's an adult. And when he's a child, he is in a terrorist attack, and during this terrorist attack and the confusion, he steals a painting from a museum called the Goldfinch, and he just as a child ends up never giving it back. But of course that attack is very monumental in his life and he never really forgets it, and he never really forgets what happens, and it's kind of how he grows up with all of this post-traumatic stress and living his life from there on out. It's a very big book and it's going to take a lot of time, but Theo is definitely a morally grey character because sometimes you'll agree with what he does and sometimes you won't, and you'll definitely be able to understand where he's coming from each and every time. I'm going to also recommend Gone by Michael Grant. This is a series where one day everybody over the age of 15 poof disappears and a dome appears over the city, trapping all of these young teenagers and children in that city, and as well as that, some of them start to develop powers. This is definitely a morally grey book because we have a lot of children doing some very questionable things. Some of them have powers, some of them don't, and I think it does a very good job of making you question who are the real villains here, who aren't the villains, and what is really going on. Lots of sinister things happen, and as the series goes on it definitely gets more and more morally grey. We follow a lot of characters and it's a lot of fun. I couldn't talk about morally grey characters without mentioning 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. In this one we follow this gang who are commissioned to steal something from this place which is hard to break into. It's a jail essentially, so definitely no one going in, no one going out, and they need to break into it to get this person out. However, they also live in this world where the Grisha exist and they have powers, and some of them are Grisha, some of them are not, and they put together this ragtag team of, well, gang members essentially to try and steal this person. It is a lot of fun. It's got a very found family-esque kind of vibe to it. We've got times where we laugh, we've got a heist going on. I personally love Jesper a lot, but there are other characters that other people have fallen in love with in this series. I think there's a little bit in there for everyone in terms of characters, and I had a blast. For morally grey characters, I'm also going to be recommending If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This one is a dark academia book which is very Shakespeare inspired, and it's about this group of Shakespearean students, and they get very caught up in their roles and something happens in this school, and it's all of a question of who did it, who done it, and how is this going to affect their group. Again, it's got that found family element because these friends are very tight and very close to each other. If you love the prestigious kind of Shakespeare quoting students and kind of the dramatic Shakespeare play storyline, you're going to very much enjoy this. The characters are morally grey, they do some bad things, they do some good things, they're trying to look out for each other. I really recommend this series. Up next we have The Ask and the Answer, which is standing in for the Knife of Never Letting Go series by Patron Ness. I love this series so much and have a whole video about 8 reasons why you should read this series, which I'll link up above and down below. But if you don't know what this one is about, it's about Todd, and he is the last boy in his town and he's just about to make the cross into being a man. He lives in this town where everybody's thoughts are on the outside, so you can see what everybody else is thinking, and they call this the noise, and all his life he's been told that the noise is going to be absolutely everywhere, but he finds a place with pure silence. And the story goes from there. I think in this one the villains are definitely very, very morally grey, but especially in the second book you get to see a lot more, a bigger array of morally grey characters, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give anything away, but it definitely works for this prompt. And last but not least, for morally grey, I must talk about the darling Evelyn Hugo from The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this one follows Evelyn Hugo, who has had 7 husbands, and she's finally doing an exclusive interview where she's going to tell the true story about about all of her partners and all of the reason why she's had 7 of them, and as well as that she's chosen this little interviewer to do it with who nobody knows why Evelyn Hugo chose her over the famous and renowned interviewers, and Evelyn Hugo says she's going to explain why at the end of the interview as well. So that's what this one is about, and Evelyn Hugo is definitely a morally grey character. She is in the Hollywood industry, so she definitely does things to put herself on the top, and she does questionable things, but you could love her or you could hate her. It's really a one or the other. Next, I'm going to be recommending some books by diverse authors. The first one I'm going to be recommending here is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I really love this one, and it's definitely got a lot of dark themes for Gothtober. We're set in a world where magic has totally disappeared all of a sudden. It was Orisha magic and it's gone, and this king came in and basically oppressed everybody who had and used this magic, but now there is the opportunity for this magic to come back, and the ability for that to happen rests on one teenager's shoulders, and she is our main character in this series. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The world building is done very well, and it talks about black experience and black themes, as well as that while in a fantasy setting. She does that duality very well. I thought it was great, and I really like the sequel as well. Then I'm going to be recommending Pride by Ibi Zoboi. This one is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's set in this neighbourhood that is slowly getting gentrified while our main character is also thinking of going to university. She still loves her neighbourhood and doesn't want to leave it and doesn't want to have to move out because of the gentrification. And when the wealthy Darcy family move in opposite their house into a big lavish house and they do it up and they're kind of contributing to the gentrification thing, Zuri is not pleased, and it kind of goes from there with the storyline of Pride and Prejudice. But it also talks a lot of themes about being a first generation person to go to university, and also about gentrification, and I quite enjoyed seeing that interwoven into this story. Next I've got When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon, and this is a like rom-com contemporary one that I really had a lot of fun with. We follow Dimple, who is going to this con where she could have the opportunity to make a game that could help her meet one of her idols, and she doesn't know that her parents are trying to set her up with a future husband while she is there, and the title When Dimple Met Rishi kind of, it goes from there. I thought this one was a lot of fun. I was smiling and laughing when reading this one, but I also really liked how it talked about stereotypical gender roles within hobbies or interests. Dimple's interested in computing and coding, and she gets a lot of hate for being a female who wants to do that thing, whereas Rishi seems to be very much into art and is struggling to kind of navigate that while also just doing whatever his parents want. It's got a lot to do with culture in here and religion, and it was just a lot of fun, but also had some very good themes. I'm also going to recommend Monstress by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. This one is a graphic novel, so if you want something that's a bit easier to get through this readathon, Monstress has got your back. We follow this girl who's trying to find out more about her mother and her mother's history, and at the same time she kind of has a monster living within her who needs to escape and come out. So that's why it's called Monstress, and it's set in this very intricate fantasy world, and it's got a great cast of characters. It could also be used for the morally grey prompt as well, I think, and I really am loving this series. After that, I want to recommend The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is one that I read very quickly. It's so easy to read and you can race through it. It's about a family from Jamaica, and there's a girl from Jamaica, and they are being deported back to Jamaica from the United States, and on the day that she's trying her very best to find a way that they can stay, she meets this Korean American guy, and they kind of have this one day together, and it delves into a lot of things about interracial relationships and culture and immigration, but it's all set in this single day, so do be aware. Insta love is kind of inevitable in this one, it does happen, but I did enjoy the themes and it's quite a quick and easy read. Then I'm going to be also recommending to you Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Ribay, and this is what the final cover looks like. This was one of my favourite reads last year, so I definitely recommend it. We follow this main character who lives in America, and he's American Philippine, and he used to be very close friends with his cousin who lives back in the Philippines, and his cousin dies and nobody really is clear about how it happened or what happened to him, so he decides that he's going to go to the Philippines and visit his extended family and find out the truth of what happened for himself. He kind of goes on a very interesting journey with grief because he did used to know his cousin well but doesn't so much anymore, and while he's kind of navigating that griefscape and all of his feelings to do with it, he's also learning a lot more about Philippines that he didn't know. It opened my eyes to a political situation in the Philippines that I knew nothing about. I think it does a very good job with the setting as well, and I really loved this one. And last but not least, I will also recommend My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braith-Waite, and I really like this one. I think it's a quiet thriller. I'd even hesitate to call it a thriller because it's so internal rather than an outward plot twisting one. You've got to really focus to see that plot twist, to understand where it's coming from. And it's about someone who's a sister to a serial killer. It talks about her guilt, what's going to happen, how her family have become this way, and why she always constantly supports her sister. And next up we have our foreign country recommendations, and I've got another 7 here for you. A lot of these also have morally grey characters or also have authors who are diverse, so you could also use that for those prompts as well and double up. The first one I'm going to talk about is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi, and this one is a graphic novel as well. It's quite a bigger graphic novel, and I believe you can buy it in part 1 and part 2 if you want to have it a bit easier to read for Gothtober. It's autobiographical, and it talks about a revolution that happens in Iran and oppression that happens in Iran, so I learned a lot about that from reading the first half of this novel. And then in this one you also get a return to Iran after having lived outside of Iran for a bit, and I also found that very interesting, the idea of moving away, what experiences she had when she moved away and then came back. It talks about mental health a little bit, and it was such an interesting read, but also so raw and truthful, and the artwork was black and white and quite simple, but it really reflected the themes very well. The next one I've got to recommend you is Where Europe Begins by Yoko Tawada, and this is a short story collection set in Japan, and we follow different characters having different experiences with Japan, with Japanese culture, with their family, with their country, or living away from their country. And if you like The Vegetarian, I think you'll also like this because the short stories are quite abstract and quite weird. When I was reading it, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it, but the fact that I've returned to some of these short stories over time means that I really did have this pull towards it that I can't explain, and I really like it. Next up I have Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, and this one is again autobiographical, so you can read a lot of non-fiction in Gothtober, and it's about his life when he was a child and growing up, but he also really respects his mother in this one, so you get to see a bit about his mother and what she's been through as well. It's set during apartheid in South Africa, and he's talking about being a biracial child and person while living in South Africa during apartheid. So I really like this one. It's very serious and emotional, but at the same time Trevor Noah is a comedian and he sprinkles it with funny moments and comedy that is really good, and I've heard the audiobook is definitely something to go with for this one. Then we've got The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy, and it follows these two twins who kind of go on different paths with their lives and all of the people that they are involved with and they get connected to. It talks a lot about the case system and the problems with it, and also just about culture in India. I learned a lot from reading this one. I wouldn't say it's particularly a favourite of mine, but I do think it has a lot of value and it's important people read it, and the writing style of this was absolutely beautiful. Then we've got The Mercies by Kieran Millward Hargrave, and this one is set in Norway in history, so we're going all the way up to the very cold, and tragedy strikes where the men who were supposed to go fishing die in a storm, and it leaves all of these women in charge of this town themselves, and then come the witch hunts, and people are very curious about this town where all of the women are there, and all of the women are enacting the roles that men traditionally enact. So they believe that there might be witches there, and the witch hunters come, and the story goes from there. It's a very slow magic book, and the pacing is very slow and steady, so if that's not your cup of tea, I wouldn't recommend this one to you. But if you like those kind of slow magic moving books that are very focused on femininity, you're really going to like this one, and there is also an FF relationship in here. Then next up I've got No Friend But the Mountain by Barutz Buchani, and this is also a non-fiction biographical kind of book, and it follows Barutz Buchani, who's trying to gain passage into Australia. He's trying to immigrate into Australia, but he gets sent to a detainment camp on Manu Island. So it's about his experience in the detainment camp and what he's been through to try and get into Australia and what he goes through while he's there. Definitely a very emotional book, and it goes through a lot of the feelings that he feels, the people that he meets there and their experiences as well, and I thought it was very fantastically and brilliantly done. And then last but not least, I'm also going to recommend you The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and this is a fantasy set in Egypt. We're following Nari, who is this thief character who's just trying to get by, and she performs a ritual that she just does so that she can earn some money. However, she doesn't realise that the gods and the jinn are listening, and they appear, and she gets whisked away into a world that she's never even imagined exists. I thought this was such a fun fantasy book. It's the first one in the series, and I haven't read the rest of the series yet, but I did have a lot of fun with it. It's so creative, it's set up the world very well, all of the characters, and I really recommend more people read it. And it was great to go to Egypt and have a desert fantasy. So there you have it. Those are all my recommendations for those 3 prompts in Gothtober. I hope you found something to read here, and please let me know your favourite morally grey character in the comment section down below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!